This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Wednesday, January 8th of 2025. Good to get that date correct. It's already been a struggle to make sure that the year is correct when I write stuff down. We're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I talk with Shannon Draayer of WesleyLife as we discuss Meals on Wheels. We had this conversation during the holiday season, so obviously it was in that spirit of giving, but it is still relevant now, and in fact, they are still ramping up that possibility for those volunteering opportunities and make sure people are involved, as Meals on Wheels is a very beneficial program for people in central Iowa. We'll also talk with Kenan Layden of agmarket.net for our closing market summary. But up here first, here's my conversation with Shannon Draayer. First off, Shannon, thanks for having us out here to check out the facility and volunteer as well. What is it that is the goal of Meals on Wheels across the state?
Yeah, so we are WesleyLife Meals on Wheels. We serve primarily Polk and Dallas County with home delivered meals, as well as support for congregate meals, which are seniors coming together to eat lunch in person and have social connection. We are a meal, a friend, and a lifeline. So we talk a lot about the food that we make. Of course, it's dietitian designed and really positive to have that thoughtful meal, but it's all about the social connection and the well-being as well. The checks that we do each day of our clients save lives, and we are able to build social bonds for people who are primarily isolated. A little bit about our program: we serve almost 2,000 meals a day, so we're one of the largest providers of this type of service in Iowa. There are others across the state doing very similar things in every county. So we're delivering meals all over Polk County and to those senior centers. The ones that we're visiting in their homes primarily live alone. That's why that social connection is so important. About 70% of those we serve live alone. So we're able to greet them with that meal and that friendly visit.
And I think at this time of year, it's especially important to have that friendly visit. It can be tough to be isolated during the holidays. So to have that connection, I'm sure you guys see the benefits kind of blossom there from just being out there, right?
Yes, for the first time this year, we were actually able to deliver meals on Thanksgiving, and we served about a quarter of the people that we typically serve who said they would see no one else on Thanksgiving. And so as we think about other holidays coming up with Christmas and other religious holidays, there are people who may not have anyone on those days. So we do have volunteer openings here at WesleyLife Meals on Wheels all around the holidays for people to deliver meals. And I would encourage people to reach out to their local providers too. There's likely opportunities to reach isolated older adults around the holiday season.
And Shannon, you mentioned having those meals, not just any meal, but a nutritious meal as well. Food insecurity is a big thing across the state of Iowa. It's kind of an invisible problem. Most people think it's not in their community, but it's in just about every community. And especially with the senior population, that can be a big problem to not have that nutritious meal. So, how is it that you guys kind of plan that out and make sure that they're getting what they need in their diet?
Yes, so we serve a dietitian designed menu. The menu is updated each month, and so it's not a rotating menu. It is unique and thoughtful in what people both want and may need for a balanced diet. One gentleman that I delivered to said, I'm the only reason, or Meals on Wheels is the only reason that he eats a vegetable. And so there's balance in things like what we all think of: protein, veggie, starch, but also sodium and percent of calories from protein and things like that are actually all state regulated, that all of the programs need to meet. And we're working to expand our offerings too in 2025 to offer more things like heart healthy or even gluten friendly.
So then when we look at those volunteering opportunities, you mentioned a lot of those coming up, a lot of availability for that. Just here in Des Moines especially, how do people get in touch for that? And on the other side of it, how can people make sure that maybe they know someone who would benefit from being on the list for receiving a meal?
Yes, so we'd love to have you spread the word, both for our program to get folks the food they need and throughout the state. Our website is wesleylife.org. When you find our site, then you can sign up for volunteer opportunities through our portal, and you can always call us. It's 515-699-3240. That is the best way to help folks sign up too, and we get individuals started. We can start them as soon as the next day. And I would say on the topic of food insecurity, we're seeing a rise in the people who are reaching out for meals, trying to find the right funding source for folks. About 85% of those we serve don't directly pay for their meals. They're funded in some sort of way through whether that's federal dollars, county dollars, or other ways that we can find support through our donors who give generously to the program. So as we're thinking about year end here, there's certainly opportunities to volunteer both with us and similar organizations, but also gifts of treasure as well. So if people are thinking about year end giving, this is a great time to give back to programs. This is often when programs like ours or food pantries are seeing the highest need.
That again was Shannon Draayer of WesleyLife. Thanks again for being on the show. And of course, you can always stay in touch with WesleyLife online and check out the Meals on Wheels program to either sign up for yourself or get care for a loved one. We'll take a look at the closing markets next, but first, here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and it's time now to take a look at the closing markets with the folks at agmarket.net. We've got Kenan Layden joining us today. Kenan, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
Grain markets held in pretty good throughout the day, and then here kind of towards the end of the trading day, they sold off a little bit. Wheat was the leader. There was some news that Trump may implement some emergency measures to do universal tariffs, which could have pressured the market a lot. The dollar on that news spiked up a great deal, which would lead to more headwinds for exports and this really good export pace we have seen here throughout these last few months in the corn market.
Then, of course, there's a big focus on South America as well. I know there are some concerns for the weather to turn sour down there, and obviously that'd be a benefit to us, but I've also seen that it's a little too early to jump to conclusions of it turning bad down there yet.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Riley. In the last question, I should have added that some of the midday runs today for that South American dry area and that Argentina and southern Brazil turned wetter in the 11 to 15 day range. That could be another reason those beans were under pressure later in the day where we didn't see that earlier. And to your point, it might be a little early to call it. As far as I understand, for that southern growing area, as you get further south, farther away from the equator, that late January, February rains are going to be really important for making that crop. Kind of like August up here in North Dakota. It's just they need those timely rains to finish that crop off. And so 10 days of dry weather in 10 to 15 days, kind of mid-growing season probably isn't going to ruin their crop, but you'll have to keep an eye out on that 11 to 15 day forecast and see if that verifies.
And then speaking of the changes that are potentially happening down in South America, when we look at the WASDE at the end of this week, I've heard so far that it's mostly just small changes, if anything, right? Not expecting too much.
Yeah, so the trade average estimates are very small tweaks, like you said, Riley. There's nothing too big there. Corn ending stocks were decreased a little. Soybeans maybe a tad higher, and wheat a tad higher, but they're pretty average. But as most of your listeners, and you probably know, the USDA, especially on this January report, really sometimes throws a wrench in that, and there's something that the trade is not estimating or taking into account that they didn't see coming when you average out all the guesses. And that's what leads to that huge market volatility moving here into this really important Friday report.
And then looking at the livestock side of things, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
Yeah, cattle were pressured, today. They've been moving up here very consistently. The feeder cattle index came in yesterday at a really high number, that 272. There was some no bids today, I think, in the live cattle, but cattle are under pressure. no specific reason I have, but one thing to keep in mind is that managed money in that feeder cattle contract was over 20,000 contracts long, probably the second time in history, if I recall right, that that has happened. And when they are that long, if they start to shorten their position, the market can really become, pressured. And they're probably even longer. It could be a record long when we get the new CFTC data next week. So something to pay attention to is that CFTC data and what the managed money is doing with their extremely long cattle position.
All right, Kenan, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch with agmarket.net, how can they do that?
Yeah, check us out on the web at agmarket.net. As you can see in my nice background up here, and find a broker in your area.
All right, Kenan, lots of great information as always, and thanks again for the analysis.
Thanks, Riley.
That again was Kenan Layden of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers closed through the market window at iowaagnet.com. March corn down 4 even at 454 even. March soybeans down 2 3/4 at 994 1/2. March soybean meal down 270 at 380 cents. Soybean oil up 34 cents at 41.59. Chicago wheat down at $1. Chicago wheat down 6 1/4 at 536 1/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 5 1/2 at 550 1/4. Minneapolis spring wheat at market time down 10 even at 584 3/4. March oats down 2 even at 324 even. On the Merc, February live cattle down $1.87 at 193.70. January feeders down 282 at 265.57. February lean hogs up 30 cents at 79.47. February pork cutout down 3.90 at 88.30. And January class 3 milk down 9 cents at 20.38. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. That also brings us to the end of today's episode. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget as well to subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. And as always, check out our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pods of Potential. Find those on iowaagnet.com or through your favorite podcasting service at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.